there. Everyone's the Aussie people are so nice.
Oh yeah, that's
Everyone's
why we were almost moved there a long time ago.
yeah, it's quite incredible. Like it's essentially you got total California vibes here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, we're live. Oh, awesome. Stellium 7 in the chat. Good to see you, Mike. The great Mike Wilkerson over in Spain. Okay, we're good
Yo,
here.
Mike,
Coming to
how's it?
you live and direct from Byron Bay. I'm gonna hit record and we'll do it. Here we go. This is fun. I'm glad we're knocking this. This was like totally last minute idea, and it's gonna be awesome. The more of these kind of things we do, the better, right?
Always
Okay.
good to reconnect with our good friend Tom.
Yeah, Tom, actually, you just took back the lead, the most Alpha Cast appearances.
Yeah.
You and Marty Leeds were tied.
Nice.
Okay, here we go. I'm not used to using my laptop for this. I normally have like three monitors at my office, so it's a little different. Here we go. Uh,
How do you feel about Mike beating you to Byron there?
Well, I got really close, but
I know.
Fiji grabbed my heart and my legs. Waves were so unbelievable. You know, that was before Tavarua when I was there in Fiji. And I was in this little on the south end of the big island. There's a river mouth on the way to town there. And so I used to surf that. It was awesome.
hmm. I'll
Kind of
hit record right
sharky, but
now.
awesome.
I'll hit record right now, but I'll tell you this, Bear, being here, I'm just like fantasizing about because I've been running to the pass, which is like the busiest surf break at this point out right here in town. It's nuts. And
Hmm.
it was busy. The lineup's like on average, what, 50 heads?
Yeah, easy.
Easy. And everyone's dodging everybody and stuff, but I'm just fantasizing about what it would be like to be here in about 68, you know? And we're going to get into that a little bit. I found out actually Byron Bay was not really evolved out of the hippie movement. It evolved out of California surfers that
Yeah.
came here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, here we go. And boom, we're back for another episode of AlphaCast. I'm Mike Winner, and I'm here as always with the man over in the States, the great cowboy wizard himself, coming to you live and direct from his lab today, Dr. Barre Lando. And I'm actually here right next to my good buddy, Tom Barnett. I am, quote unquote, what down under, as the globalists like to say, the globies, really just on the other side, really, of the map.
So
Uh,
that makes me up and over.
Pretty much, man, right? But yeah, we're here together, Tom and I, and we just got done with the Living Free Festival in the Pilar Valley and been hanging here in his hood, Byron Bay, and we thought it would be a great opportunity to do an Alpha Cast. So here we are, and I got to tell you, I'm loving Byron. The people here in Australia are so fantastic. There's a definitely like a resonance between California and East Australia. I haven't been to the west end of the country, but I'm for what from like the bit of experience I've had here, uh, it's like California with a bit of British proper, and you can totally, if you like, just bear. If I know we were saying before we hit live, like you were on your way to live here, and in another life, my friend, you will be here because this has got Barre Lando stamped all over it, especially in Byron. And I haven't been to up to Mullumbimby, but from what I understand, you would love that place as well. But it's got a resonance here in the land that is quite palpable. It's very much a sacred vortex place, and you can feel it resonating amongst the people and in the land. It's really dope. I'm so stoked to be here in Byron today. And we'll get a bit into that, and we'll be touching on the festival and what Tom's been up to. And Tom just took the record, Bear. He'll be number one, the most AlphaCast appearances. He just took the first place. It was he and Marty, I believe. Marty Leeds tied. So that's awesome. I think this is now your fifth appearance, I believe, on AlphaCast, which is pretty incredible. And we couldn't be more honored. For those who don't know Tom, well, here, I'll just do the quick intro we wrote up. So this past weekend's Living Free Festival in Pilar Valley, Australia was a great success with an international alliance of noted speakers and free thinkers who believe it's time to return our world to the Creator's intended design as a realm of peace and plenty. I was there. I made the journey out here as a featured speaker, talking about new forms, a new pathway of currency, and a new way to transact in the private. And I also dropped a DJ set Friday night, super fun. And we thought it would just be a lot of fun to bring Bear in here and do this cast with Tom and I as we're chilling here in Byron all week, and to catch up and see what Tom's been up to. Tom Barnett is a holistic health practitioner and a photographer, videographer. He became well known after he posted the video, "You Can't Catch a Virus." That's actually how we discovered Tom back in 2020. And it went you know what's funny is when I think actually Bryden sent me the video, and he's like, "You got to go find this guy," because even back then, the corona hoax was kind of getting into full swing. Our background, of course, was educating people about the false germ theory. And really, we thought we were on an island unto ourselves. We did know, of course, a bit about Amanda Vollmer, and there was Stefan Lanka out there spreading truth on his videos, but there really wasn't much else. And Bear and I, in many ways, thought we were sort of on the dark corner of the internet. And then we got this video sent from this crazy Aussie who is talking about how viruses aren't real, and it was a bunch of funny sound effects. I think actually it was like Richie from Boston. It was like
Oh,
featuring
whatever
it.
happened to Richie from Boston?
I think he went down too many rabbit holes, to be honest, and sort of fried himself out. Yeah, I think a little too much black pill and not enough holistic health. I don't know. That's a great question.
That guy was great. That was in the pre-mass censorship phase when you had all sorts of Richie from Boston types out there.
Yeah, total legend. He was definitely one of the pioneers. Yeah, so we saw that, and I went on your Facebook and actually tried to find you, and there was rumors on your Facebook that you had died.
Yeah.
And so I messaged you, "Hey, if you're still alive, bro."
You look very well considering.
If you're still alive, please join us. We'd love to talk. And oh, Topher's in the chat, maybe a little too cozy. Yeah. Tom and I we're almost nuts to butts here. But Toph, by the way, was just
It's a little gay, but go ahead.
Little gay. I was just listening to your podcast with Alex Stellerman. So anyways, I messaged you and we got you on the cast, and we've definitely built a friendship ever since then. And how cool is it to meet in person? Like you develop these friendships, Bear, right? Like with all these different people online, and there's just nothing like kicking it in person. Like Bear just got to experience that at Music in the Sky and meet all of our friends and stuff from AlphaCast there in person. And it's something so powerful and something we need to be doing more. So, but that being said, Tom was a powerful force, a powerful voice during those times, and he helped to co-found the Living Free movement, on which he actively lends his voice to help find solutions to problems and inspire the community. He is known for his unique way of educating and teaching the principles of natural law, helping men and women break through illusions and remember who we inherently are. Tom Barnett, welcome to the show. Barre Lando, take it away, my friend.
This gonna be a lot of fun. Tom, good to see you as always. And as Mike was saying, we just kind of did this at the spur of the moment, and I guess no less prepared than any of our others, though, even though we kind of schedule others ahead of time. But this is fantastic to see you again, Tom. And Mike, glad you've had a good time down there and got to Australia before I ever made it. I tried to journey there in the mid 70s, and as I was saying before, hit Fiji for some surf sessions and then never left and didn't make it to Australia. So someday I'll make it down under and see you.
Yeah, I hope so. It's not that far from Fiji either. You could go back to your old haunting. What do you call it? Your old what grounds? Stomping grounds.
Yeah.
Your old haunt, whatever you call that. Some place of special significance for sure.
Yeah, Fiji was such a wonderful place. It was hard to leave, just our kids were like super, super young toddlers, and the Fijian people love kids, and surf was unbelievable. Um, Never missed out on a kava kava ceremony at nighttime before bed. And it was freaking awesome. And, we were offered a full-time position there from a guy that owned a luxury resort off the coast of the Great Barrier Reef, Lizard Island. You probably know it. And he was starting a new health-oriented resort in Fiji. So he asked me to do it. And I said, let me think. I said, sure. And he got me a permanent work visa. In exchange, the government allowed me to stay if I delivered some emergency healthcare services to this remote Fijian little village. And then I got to stay and hang. So good time. But then we ended up moving on to Hawaii a little bit later. So almost made it, Tom.
Almost. You know what would be cool is to be able to hook up in Fiji and then you come to Australia, something like that.
Yeah, I'd love to see it. Fiji's got to be quite a destination, so I don't know where I'd go now. I don't think I'd go to Tavarua. As I was telling you before, Tavarua wasn't even a thing back then. A friend of mine actually runs the resort right now, and so we still have kind of ties over there. But I don't know. I think I have to find a remote island somewhere in Fiji where no one's been. There's over 300 islands, or no, 3,000, excuse me.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wasn't aware of that. We were just in Fiji last spring, and yes, it's been much more commercialized since
Yeah.
those times. But you can still it's still very second world, third world-ish. The people there it's kind of got those Hawaii vibes, just like
Yeah.
very happy people. Everyone's just bula bula, Vinaka, and just yeah. Unfortunately, Bear doesn't fly anymore, and I get why, because it is miserable. On my way here, I came down with a fever on the plane, had the shakes. Thank God I had a bit of an apothecary of Alfa Vedic stuff with me, so I was hitting the mineral salts, I was hitting isopathic, and that was pretty miserable. Luckily, I did get to sit next to Alex, so we were laughing and stuff. But and then Alec came down with something a couple days in here, probably from the plane. We heard of 3 other people that had weird stuff on the airplane. So you guys, yeah, who knows what they're spraying in the planes, what sort of resonance
Yeah.
is being pushed through there with all the EMFs. There's like internet now on the plane and stuff.
The
So
main thing for me is I refuse to be demeaned, dog trained. Before I get on the plane, take your shoes off, take your belt off, put your stuff in the basket, stop, go, set, you show us your ID. It's like, F that. Who are these people? These $12 an hour morons that are giving you orders and all fool themselves. And, the moment somebody tries to grope me, these days, hey, sorry, buddy, but it's lights effing out. You're not going to touch my body. So yeah, I don't fly anymore, but I'm hoping someday sanity will prevail and we'll get to globetrot a bit more.
Well, there's a couple solutions there. So at the Living Free Festival, we had hundreds of Alpha Vedic fans there, and people in our community, and everyone was asking for Bear. So I said, well, we just got to work on teleportation. That's what we got to work on. And once we get that down, Bear, that or maybe the underground tunnels that you can come through. We were talking a bit about that yesterday, Tom. Or we get our own plane. So there are solutions, right?
100%. Yeah, flying private for one, airships. Like there's so many things that we can bring back. I think people get too locked into a paradigm of like, do I go through a scanner or not go through a scanner? It's like, dude, there's more than one way to get somewhere, even via air, there's more way to get somewhere. So I think if enough of us are just, sick of the old paradigm, we have the ability, resources collectively, it's like we can make things happen. It's not all a matter of just, throwing, like we just went to Europe, man, summer. We did we did a 16-hour flight from Australia to, don't know where that was. Anyway, we flew like a lot, over a month. Didn't have any kind of sign of, we actually felt better from doing the travels. We did a lot of flying, a lot of miles, night flights, and that is just, so I find, so for example, Summer's really sensitive, a very sensitive being. She would always get headaches going through the airport scanners. So she just didn't want to go through scanners anymore. And I'm like, yeah, but it's not like this is the analogy I bring up every time I do a talk now. I'm like, what do you think's more powerful? I say to her, I go, you think that this scanning device made by some factory in China, is that more powerful than you are being designed by God or life itself? She's like, well, obviously me. So I'm like, yeah, well, just stand in front of this thing and just give it what you are. And since then, she's never got a headache from it. And she's super sensitive. She'll get headaches from things she doesn't even know what's around. It's just kind of like how you can carry yourself through, and made a big difference for her. And she's super sensitive. So it's
That's a great point about using these, tyrannical gateways as a means to further express our power. In the States, you can opt out and then you get the grope. There is a TSA pre-check too in the States. So if you get that, then you can just go around all that. You go through the metal detector. You don't have to take your belt off, your shoes off, all that. But that being said, like I'm going to face that on Friday flying back. And I was trying to figure out, I guess in Australia, you can't just opt out.
oh, you can.
Oh, you can.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So I'm going to try it, but coming out of San Francisco, I found out my TSA pre-check was expired, so I had to opt out. I just opt out and got the grope, and the guy was super cool. But I've been working on, like, he was, he was just like, he gave me just a little touchy-feely. But it was all
Ooh.
about, once again, yeah, I use that as a means, as a way to further my game, my internal game, and also just emit radiant positivity to everyone around me. Because just to think about this too, Tom and Bear, on the flip side, most of those people are going through like drones, like robots, going through this whole system and completely have no concept of really what's going on here. Like in the States, you have to put your hands up like this when you go through. So it's a complete submission. You're literally opening your soul to the machine, right? That to me was always worse than anything about EMFs or anything. It was this symbolic submission, right? It's almost like you're like, pray to my God, the state or the machine, the Borg. And in doing that, yeah, like strengthening my internal spiritual game, and then use that as sort of a testing ground is one way you can kind of transmute the process.
Yeah, 100%. Because like, it's not just a one way thing. So I find that I've actually literally felt that it's you can't be permeated by these machines as well. So, but it's more what you said. It's that in Australia, it's like this. You got to put your arms up like that.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah,
so all you need to do is say, I can't internally rotate my shoulder,
yeah, yeah.
because
Got it.
they're not allowed to put you in harm's way, right? It has to still be via consent. So if you can't, if that's going to put you in harm, then they have no bounds under federal law or jurisdiction to make you do something. So yeah, you can opt out. You just say,
Yeah,
look, I can't
Tom,
go through the machines.
your points are spot on, and these overlays as far as the electromagnetics that they throw at us are like very artificial minor overlays compared to what we're capable of if we amp up our inner game. So it's for me, it's more just I just don't want to bend the knee. Uh, and it's as simple as that. I don't worry about the other stuff. And if I have to go somewhere and it's something I want to do or I can't get around, then I'll fly somewhere. But I definitely curtail the amount of flying I do. And I think the States is a little bit probably worse than a lot of other places in the world with the TSA. Is that true?
I don't know, man. The TSA is pretty mellow in the States. From when I came into Australia, I was kind of shocked at the amount of surveillance now, or not the surveillance, but the biosecurity. So a lot of facial recognition you have to go through. They are trying to start that in the States, but they literally have signage up that says you can opt out of this. So they're trying to create the custom, right? They're trying to create the custom so that becomes accepted, like the scanners. Where in Australia there was no signage out. Now I'm sure you can still opt out of that facial recognition, or are they making that pretty
I
difficult?
think Australia is the testing bed for a lot of this stuff for sure.
Mhm.
Like I have no idea what it's like to be in America. I'll just give a quick analogy. So we were in Spain and France and Italy when
Mhm.
we were over in Europe.
EU.
And I'm like, especially in Spain. So I'm driving around on a Australian driver's license, and apparently you're not meant to. Apparently they're very rigorous there with you've got to have an international driver's permit. And if you get a fine from a traffic cop in Spain, the story is they'll actually escort you to an ATM and make you pay. Whereas in Australia, and I imagine the States, you get given a ticket. If you want to dispute it, you'll go to court. There's many ways to discharge the liability for the debt. But in a place where it's like, it's not your language, the rules are different, they got automatic weapons on them. I'm like, do I really like my confidence in Australia is pretty high, right? If I get, but in Spain, I'm like, I don't know. I guess I'm going to be escorted to an ATM. Like, what am I going to do with my wife there? And that I don't know how to speak the language, and this dude's going to get aggressive. I don't know the rules there. Like, I don't know so like, I had to be very like, you know what? I'm a small fish in a big pond here. But I will tell you that although Australia, I think, is very, very tyrannical insofar as that I haven't seen any way to opt out of facial recognition, but I get treated really well. I got to say, like, when you say, Bear, that you don't want to bend the knee, like, I totally get it. But I was going through airports here where I was the only one that was unmasked. And I would go up to a service desk, and just by the way I treated them and the way I held myself, I was getting royal treatment. They're like, "Oh, how are you, sir? Would you like me to have you got your boarding pass?" I'm like, "No, I haven't done that yet. I don't really like using my phone." He goes, "Let me do that for you, sir." And it's just like, why am I getting royal treatment and other people are getting shafted by? I just honestly think it's the way that you create the environment. I just think as creative beings, if we're setting the tone, others will follow. It's like when, Alec was talking a lot about Eileen's work, where it's like the higher, what's the word? Confluence or something. The higher whatever. It will help. Like, I always talk it about in so far as structure of water. Like, the better structure of water in the glass will structure all the tap water around it. And I really play with that. Like, I don't just like to talk about it, I like to play with it. And I'm like, how can I make this a better environment? How can I make these people more valuable, or help them see the value in themselves? How can I interact with these machines in a way that I'm like remembering who I am? So for me, it's kind of like, I don't know. It's just, I find that part of my purpose, because I did decide years ago, I'm like, fuck flying. Like, and we supposed to swear on Alpha Cast. Well, I won't. I'm not going to fly.
Earmuffs. Kids, earmuffs.
I'm not going to fly anymore because I don't like the way it's going. And then, but then I just came to realize, I'm like, you know what? Like, why should I not go to America? Why should I not go to Europe and experience? And so, yeah, I've just found ways to do it on my terms. That doesn't mean I'm flying, private yet, although I just know that that's a possibility. So I'm just trying to go through, like, level up each time. At the start, it's like airport staff. How can I make that a better experience? Then it's the machines. How can I be better than the machines? Then it's the actual environment on the aircraft. How can I better that? And then that will start progressing as I master that, to be in like, okay, well, I'm now not even going into these airports, because I've seen it. You've probably seen it, Bear. Like, I know you know a lot about these levels of societal, factions. And there's people that don't go through that stuff. They got different kinds of passports, different kinds of documents, and they're like, it's a different thing. So I'm just like, all right, when I'm ready, when I become the right man, that will be the way.
Yeah, I got to enjoy free travel for a while in the like the mid to the later 90s, because I was affiliated with offshore banking operation. I was on the board of 50-member banks, and it was a pretty big deal. Old client of mine was way up in G7, and he was one of their boys, and that's another whole story. But in those days, it was helicopter, to a close place to where I live, took us to the private jet, and it was, and
Oh, we got a frozen bear.
Come on, Elon.
we were just waved through everything, even the private jet port customs, didn't touch us. We could carry large amounts of cash, like literal suitcases full, and not have anybody flag us. But if you're just a regular folk, and you have 10 grand on your body, the bar in the middle of the note's gonna beep off, and you're gonna have people all over you. But we just had free passage, so it's nice. And yeah, you're absolutely right. There's people that don't have to deal with that sort of thing. And I really believe that we're in the last throes of all this stuff anyway, because way back, earlier in my life, where I used to fly when I was just flying in sports, and, going on team planes and all that kind of stuff. But I also did a lot of personal travel. And airplane flights were very high-end experiences. You know, the stewardesses were young and pretty, and they took good care of you. The airplanes weren't falling apart. You had a lot extra leg room. Everybody treated you, like first class, because hey, this is upper end. If you're flying, it's not like you're on a Greyhound bus or something. And boy, now you feel like you're on a Greyhound bus. In fact, I would say a Greyhound bus is more comfy.
Yeah, I was telling Alec on the flight here, even myself as a kid of the 80s, I remember flying to New York with my fam and my dad kind of being gone for a bit. And I would, as a kid, I could just roam the plane. And these were the double decker big Airbuses back then. I think they were, I forgot the type of style of plane, of jet, but I remember going upstairs in the plane and finding him at the piano bar having a cocktail, and there was a dude playing piano on the plane. And it was like a a full cocktail lounge experience. I remember like actually looking forward to flying as a kid. It was fun. I would go into the and would hang out with the pilots for a second. They'd give me my wings I would pin on. They'd make you feel good. It was like there was still competitiveness with the airlines, right? They were trying to actually make you happy and want to come back. And now it's just sardines in a can. They demean you. It's really wild how
And
far we've come.
you're really, really hoping that the pilot didn't get the shot and stroke out in the middle of a flight.
I do love the idea though of like of going back to this is something that was a common theme in the event this last weekend, which was being really radical with our thinking and our creativity on where we can go in the private and as a community. And like, why not bring airships back? Why not have the true technologies in our circles? Embrace those and have some ingenious people develop those, especially when you can do 3D printing now and stuff. Like, we talk a lot about being progressive and not regressive. So using certain new technologies in conjunction with old classic technology and actually start producing airships again and like providing that as a service to people, like the sky's the limit with all that.
Well, in the Ascended Master teachings, they go into great detail, the original Saint Germain teachings, not all the New Age stuff that came later. And they elaborate on the civilizations that have gone prior and describe those very airships and the fact that the ethers, the etheric medium, is rife with currents. And all you have to do is get in one of those slipstreams. You need no energy to travel, to stay, in flight, and it's a very easy matter. No fuel, no messing with the atmosphere, and absolutely zero chance of any kind of catastrophe happening, like your doors blowing off mid flight, or the landing gear not working. All the kind of stuff that goes on with the great Boeing Incorporated these days.
Yeah, pretty wild, right? That we're still using the same technology that really came out of like the 1920s, in
It's
terms
totally
of what
archaic, totally
totally
archaic,
archaic.
embarrassingly archaic.
And you could say that's the same for pretty much all facets of the public, right? I mean, it's medicine, everything to do with the state, everything to do with just you look at a general town, how the infrastructure is. I was kind of laughing with Tom, like how there's different plugs here. So all the inputs are different over here. You can't use ours. You have to have this like little converter. And like it's wild that we still are running AC and DC through our walls. Like, you know, but things are changing. So Tom, what are you seeing right now with your travels and everything in Australia? What's your current sort of temperature gauge on things happening here in this country and the world?
Well, man, that's a big question. Thanks, Mike.
You've
I
got
think,
30 seconds.
yeah, yeah. Well, look, similar to what Bear just said, I think that everything goes on these cycles and swings, and I think that things will go back to a more naturally regulated value system, like your talk, really, as well. Like in currencies, I just think like everything that we have is designed to fail. Like we're living in a society of planned obsolescence. Like we know that with the cars we drive, the appliances that we have, it's all planned obsolescence. So therein lies like a bit of a clue, as it is designed to fail. And when things fall under a false or a fictional value system, when things fall and it comes back to what's technically real and it sifts, it just falls into its natural alignment of value and et cetera, et cetera. And I think it will mean, for example, only certain people will fly, or like everyone will fly, but it'll be under a different, like, it won't be the way that it is now. And back in the day, like you were saying, like pilots were just like held in such high regard in society. Like people would like salute captains and that as they're walking through airports or through town, and they'd hold themselves. They were proud of their position, like really proud to be. And same with stewards and like they were proud to have that position. You don't see that so much anymore. So we're already seeing, for example, just with that analogy, a decay in a natural value system, because it's like they don't. Well, actually, we flew Qantas, and to be fair, actually, they're really good. Like they're Australia's premier airline, so the service and all that is really good. The airline's pretty comfortable, but just in general, it's more of just like it's a position, it's a means to an end for a lot of people now, and it's like, yeah, let's just get there.
It's a job, not a vocation.
Yeah, and let's just get there as cheap as possible. So then in comes all these budget airlines with like unpainted wings where they're like bringing like like riveted to the body, and it's like, hey, is that how you're supposed to build a plane? And then it's like, it's just you're not really having a good experience. It's not about the experience anymore, and we're losing all the value that's meant to be there on the like just in the moment of what you're doing. Just using airlines as a basic analogy for everything else. So I see that obviously falling apart, and it is, we know, designed to fall apart. So then as it does, I just see these natural value systems coming in, which is why I feel it's so important for people not to get taken out of who they really are, to chase an illusion based on like, oh, but these people are doing that, or I need more followers, or I need more like silicon in my body, or I need more like whatever. And just to remember, it's like the value's not there. And if you throw it away, when these things collapse, away will go your perception of everything. But as things fall into a natural balance, as they have to, like we've spoken about this before on other Alpha casts, like you can't pull the fabric of being or nature or reality too far, because the further you get from its natural state, the harder it springs back. Like it's always going to find equilibrium at some point. So as long as you're in line with natural law, as I speak about it, it's like everything's cool. You actually, you only ever level up, no matter whether it's within a fictional construct or as it returns to a more natural way of being. So that's what I personally focus on a lot. And when you say, what do I see like Australia being, I'm like, that's a totally individual construct. I see, for me, it's like I'm very, very comfortable with the way things are going. I'm very excited and optimistic about the way things are going for me, but I totally see other people, and I see a lot of like, unrest coming. I see a lot of disillusion and disarray coming just because of where people are at inside and what they're bought into. And I see other people like really thriving, and I just think that that's always been that way anyway. Yeah. Can't see it being any different, to be honest. What about you?
Well, I'll just say, being here, I can see why they targeted this place, because it's a very sacred land. I think there's a lot of ancient history here that has been occulted and hidden. You have the red sands in the middle. That there's a lot of different theories around that, whether that is from the bricks of the ancient, civilization here.
Next time you come, we'll take a road trip out to the center.
That would be amazing. But the people themselves, they emit a kindness and joy. Even like the quote unquote total normies here, everything is like, how you going? Good on you, mate. Like that kind of stuff. And there's just a pleasantness here that sometimes, and I think it has to do actually, Bear, with there's a lack of diversity here. And so in the States, we have a melting pot where everything, ironically, the more of the melting pot, the more of a monoculture develops around corporatism. Where here you still have a very rich culture of people that have the same language, that have the same mentality, that have the sort of mutual respect and a kindness to each other, where sometimes I feel like in the States and other places, like where Alec is right now in London, for instance, and he did not want to leave, by the way, and I'm glad he did, because he's doing his thing, but he was bummed he had to leave so quickly. And you see this like where we live, right? Like you have multi-generational respect and culture where there is sacredness, there's values there that are shared. And whereas I think what the plan is, of course, by those who wish to be in control, is to strip that out. And so they targeted these people immensely during the 2020, nonsense for that reason. And and I do see that there are people still going through, what is it, the 7 steps of of like grief or whatever
Yeah.
from that.
Yeah.
And those that have worked it out already were at the festival, and still some of them processing it there, and then still maybe some are still walking around in a daze from it, because you guys were some of the most heavily targeted in the world, right?
Yeah, 100%. It's so interesting hearing your perspective though,
Yeah.
because I would have said that about America. I would have said here we don't have a culture. I'd say here we don't have, and I'm like, because it's true though. Like I will say, Australians are some of the friendliest people on earth. Like we're known for
Yeah.
that, and even being here, especially compared to Europe, in that it's like we are a friendly group of people, but we don't really have an identity or a culture. And you're seeing a bubble here. You're seeing a lot of just white people all the same. But if you go to places in Melbourne and Sydney, there's a huge melting pot there. And I would agree with what you said about the States. Like you lose stuff. And that's why, like, there is positive racism where it's like, that's not a bad thing. It's actually a good thing to hold on to things, because otherwise it can convolute. But at the end of the day, I think Australia is a very great place. I think the reason people are generally happy is our climate as well. Kind of maybe similar to Cali.
Yeah,
like it's pretty hard to have a bad, like look at this little winter's day. We're just hanging out, chilling. It's like, it's beautiful outside, warm weather, blue skies. It's like, you hear birds chirping all the time.
Yeah, the
It's
bird
just-
life here is next level. It's like Bear. It's like if you were the first time to come to the States and you were just hanging out in like Santa Barbara and Ojai, right? Like that's sort of been my experience. I haven't been to LA or San Francisco yet, so I totally see that. Yeah, and it's an interesting point. We've really gotten to the point now. I think it's true all over the world, right? Like in every city, it's become that.
Yeah. Well, the other, okay, 2 quick things. One is that although we're very friendly, and I'm quite proud of like that is what we're known for, and the fact that it is nice to be around, under the surface, there's a huge tall poppy syndrome. Whereas when I talk to people from America, they're always like, "Oh, you want to do that with your bit?" I won't try to do an American accent, but it's like, yeah, like go for it. Like, everyone wants to see each other succeed in general. I'm sure there's the opposite in some places too, but the dominant narrative in Australia is tall poppy syndrome, which is, yeah, you do well, but just not better than me. And if I see you start doing better than me, well, now I'm going to start trying to undercut you in sort like that friendliness goes real fast. Whereas in Europe, some people just like, they don't pretend, which I like. They're like, they might be a little bit blasé with you. They're not even that happy to see you or whatever, but it's genuine. And then when they do make a connection, it's like you can feel it. And I actually got to really respect that, because initially I was kind of like looking at someone like, some of these people are kind of rude. Like this isn't very good service or
Especially
whatever.
France, huh?
Yeah.
And Spain. I felt that in Spain too.
100%, and Italy too. And so, but then when it's like, when it is there, it's like, so this is genuine and it feels good. And to them, it's normal. Like it's not disrespectful to not be super polite on the surface. And it was just different. And I really liked it. But having said that, like I do love that in Australia, when you walk down the beach or the street, generally speaking, you'll catch eyes with someone and you'll get a smile or a nod or a hello, or at least happy eyes or something. And I do really like that as a culture.
Yeah, I would say in America, and Barrett, you chime in here what your feelings are in the US, but there does seem to still be this notion of the individual rising to the top, and that's to be sort of expected. Of course, we were joking about Kamalato taking over, and they've tried to homogenize that idea, but that was right. That was sort of the precept that defined the generation of the republic to begin with.
Well, my first comment is Americans don't have accents. On the other hand, Tom, you speak with an Australian accent.
Fair enough. Can't argue with that.
The monoculture didn't happen in America because of race or any other kinds of divides along different types of people from different parts of the world. That was all fabricated as a psyop, because what made America strong was it was a melting pot, but it had the common thread of everybody that came here for the spirit of freedom. My ancestors that came, I'm second generation, they came from both Italy and Peru, and they came here to escape fascism and communism. And when they got here, they couldn't believe that they could simply go to work, make money, and not have people take it, and then actually start a business. And in a single lifetime, all of them uh, lived the American dream to the extreme. Now, also back at those times, it's like Italians. I mean, they were pretty low on the totem pole in those places in the South where they were below blacks, as far as on the hate list. So it's not like, there aren't difficulties. It was just the assimilation. And then in a single generation, even though people hated they first came in, they're just part of the culture. And the Italians are the most patriotic people you'd ever want to meet. And America, brought all that true diversity, not this phony diversity. And, we all shared these, the same ideal, but maintained the cultures from where we came from and learned to enjoy each other's culture. So that's kind of what the American culture was. It was, like this smorgasbord of all these things. And when my grandparents came here, they moved into Little Italy in San Francisco. So they had their little, kind of click there and maintain their culture. And, but at the same time, didn't do it at the expense of being Americans. They learned the language, they contributed. And, America left alone. And, in my college years and so forth, when the whole issue of racial divide wasn't even an issue, and that's been refabricated. And of course, it's a whole divide and conquer sort of thing. America, what we have to understand is every country, every continent has a powerful spiritual being that oversees the energies and the evolution of that location. And America, and we're not talking about some kind of political boundary patriotism where Americans think they're exceptional, over other people in the world. But if you look at our realm as a anatomical design, there are different organs, and different countries fulfilled the same organs that are maintained and carried out biologically in the human body. It so happens that the United States, not before its incorporation, or not since its incorporation, but before that, it was the heart organ. And that heart organ had assigned to it a very powerful being that had a spirit of independence and freedom, sovereignty, and the right for self-determination. So people that come here pick up that spirit, and that spirit cannot be killed. It will not die, and evil will not succeed over it. And America will fulfill its destiny as far as the heart organ for the rest of this plane. And that's just the way it is. And of course, no anatomy can be healthy or complete unless all the components are contributing, their particular function and adding their value. So again, for the folks in the rest of the world, it's very easy for US folks to maybe come off a little bit condescending or have a superiority sort of air about them, but that's not it at all. And it's time that Americans start stepping up and fulfilling, the reason why we embodied here in the first place. Because Tom, Mike, myself, we've embodied thousands of times probably in probably every location on the planet. And we've gone around every possible conceivable experience. We are here at this time at the close of a great epoch in human evolution, where we are now going to be free forever and experience the third and final golden age. And we are embodied at this time to see that in. So no matter what country you're from, it's paramount that you understand what your function is, make your contribution, and don't look right or left.
Oh, dude, I feel like I need a cigarette or something
I
after that. I'm
know.
like,
Wow.
that was awesome, Bear.
One thing on that. America is not a pump. Two, I'd be interested to know then where Australia plays in terms of the nodal or excuse me, sort of the organ structure of the realm. And then of course Hawaii too, right? Hawaii plays like you lived in Hawaii a long time. Hawaii plays an important role there too, as well, right?
And then every continent, every island chain, every location also is a microcosm of that particular design, natural design. Like in Hawaii, I lived on Maui. It was a heart center. The big island was the root chakra. The Kauai was the pineal gland, and you could feel those energies when you went to different parts of the Hawaiian island chain. Same thing within any country. You're going to find, guess where the heart of the United States is? It's actually in Chicago, and and so
Mm.
forth. So yeah, Tom, what do you know about Australia and its function in the larger realm?
Well, it's interesting that you just brought. By the way, thank you for sharing that. I was just saying to Mike, like we've been having discussions over the last few days, and
Yeah.
Mike's been filling in little gaps for me about, in my knowledge and my learnings and it's been really, really valuable. And then you just saying that, I'm just like, oh, dude, like just having so much happen inside that it's very grateful. Thank you. Uh, I have been told several times that things will happen a lot for me and Summer when we go to America. And interestingly, much like you were saying before, you just kind of like wrote off flying. I've written off America for most of my life. I just kind of like, why would I go to America? Like I couldn't see a reason to go. And apparently, this is from like certain people. Oh, like Rachel Vaughn, who you've spoken to, for example.
Mhm.
It's like things will happen for me in LA, and I'm like, LA, all right, it's super crowded. I can't stand crowds. I need to be by myself. It's one of the most polluted places on earth. I like clean, fresh air. I don't like traffic jams. I don't like drinking. I don't like sex culture. I don't like any things that LA, Hollywood. Like I don't like anything about LA. Well, according to my mind. But it's like there's something in my soul journey or purpose that is apparently supposed to something happens there, right? So anyway, to answer your question, I had no idea about the heart that the US or America, the land mass of America is the heart organ of the world. I know about chakra and nodal points, which that's kind of to answer your question, which I'll get to. But one of the things to me on my personal journey in this lifetime is really getting properly into my heart. And from our experiences, obviously, we are on the hero's journey to give us the challenge that we need to rise to receive or inherit our kingdom. For me, it's that. Like I was taken away from that through, I don't know, perhaps lifetimes, perhaps early in this childhood, whatever it is, or a culmination of everything. And it's somewhat of a life purpose for me to make that connection. Like I'm very mind oriented, and people know me for that. But there's an immense power in when I activate that part. For example, I know this because several people who are have their gifts in that, who no one's known me before, they don't know each other, they all just immediately say the same thing and say the same things that they couldn't possibly know without some kind of other price. So like that kind of thing, right? And it's all pointing towards that. And that's why like I'm super pumped to come to America and in general. So as far as the organ, I actually don't know what the organ is that is Australia, but as far as a chakra point on Earth, I've been told that Uluru, especially, was the solar plexus. But then when you actually break it down and look at it, and this was from Rachel Vaughn, and I don't forget the guy's name who wrote the book on the ley lines around Paul. Someone I think maybe I think she mentioned on your Alpha Cast as
Mhm.
well.
Mhm.
But it's actually the sacral chakra. Because
Mhm.
if you look at it, the way that it's actually shaped, the fact that it's orange, like literally orange, like everything about the place actually more relates to a sacral chakra. And I do know very well the song line that goes from Uluru and it goes right through Byron here. It's actually right between where you're staying. And you look out at the ocean, you see those little rocks called Julian rocks.
Mhm.
It
Mhm.
goes between the landmass and the rocks. And that then heads out to places like Peru that heads
Mhm.
to, it connects to all the major nodal points.
Mhm.
It's like, from what I understand, it's the originating song line that connects everything else. So it's a very, very powerful land, obviously. But as far as the organ, I'm really not sure.
Interesting. You say sacral, and I'm thinking of like the regenerative, the generative system, and when you're talking about the loins and down in that area, what do you have here? You have marsupials, right? You have these animals that have pockets that keep their babies. Like it's like it's such a unique animal life here that might be. We were talking yesterday about what animals are from my perspective, how they're sort of an emanation, a physical emanation of released human emotion upon death, and these archetypes and stuff. And you have the most interesting wildlife here that might be representative of that. So that is, yeah, that's a fun rabbit hole to go down.
So
Absolutely.
I'm told that Uluru, as you already said, Tom, is the being in the red zone of Australia, is the heart center of Australia, but in the larger picture, it's the solar plexus of
Mhm.
the planet. And the solar plexus begins as far as organs with the stomach. So let's see, what does the stomach do? Well, it's a very fiery sort of mix of chemicals. And when we digest food, of course, the first thing it does is hit that fire so that things can dissolve and be assimilated. And then the small intestine, also in that solar plexus area, is going to pick apart, examine, and discard what's of value and what's not. It's sort of the practice of discernment. And then you have a very important mediary in that solar plexus, which is the liver. And of course, the liver conjugates all the different foodstuffs and goodies and everything into the proteins and other elements that the body needs to maintain every single function. So, on a planetary or on a chakra level, the solar plexus is the business center. Just like in Hawaii, Oahu was the solar plexus. It's a business center. It's where people gather and yeah, they create commercial enterprise, they communicate with each other. It's all the organs that keep the whole function going so that the heart has something to pump and circulate in the first place and so forth. So if you look at the solar plexus of the planet, if that's true, then Australia has a very indeed a very powerful and critical function for the rest of the realm.
Yeah, absolutely. You can feel it too. It's
Hmm.
yeah, it's there's something. But then also when you look at some of the old, like occulted information about what Australia is and its connection to other places and how, like, you know, all the, yeah, like this place has been visited for a long, long, long time. Like we're sold this story of white, what do you call it, like colonialism. And
You were a prison. You were sent all England sent all their prisoners here,
yeah,
supposedly.
yeah, we're a penal colony,
Penal
and it
colony.
happened in like 1886 or something like that. It's like, no, nah, like this place has been like a commerce route for like thousands and thousands of years. And so when you look at a lot of this sort of stuff that has been occulted, which essentially just means hidden, it's like there's reasons for it. And the more hidden that is, and the more these stories are spun to remove people from themselves about, indigenous this and white that and colonialism this and then multiculturalism that. And it's like all this way to just separate again from like who we really are and our connection to a place that we're told in many dominant narratives that we have no connection to. But it's like none of that's true. I don't know if it's the same in America. Like if you guys get told that you're like somewhat of, you know, terrible people or there's some kind of white guilt, like not to say that some bad stuff didn't happen. Like we all know that, but the degree to which that happens and in the context that that happens and in the severity and then the timelines, from what I've seen, it's like all lies. And it's to separate oneself with their actual purpose and connection to a particular land. And then also where that's supposed to go. Like I know that now that like me and Summer, both of us, we're meant to be moving. Like I said to you before we went online, Bear, like I just think we're meant to be moving. Certain people are, others maybe to a lesser degree. But that's certainly something I've been learning over the last like year.
No, I totally relate to that. My wife and myself are actually pretty nomadic. You know, we've grown roots in quite a few places, but we always move on too. And ultimately, what we're going to do is put a camper on the truck and just take off. And you know, everything we own will it then be in the truck, and we're getting close to that. So, if you consider the Hopi prophecy, which you know, which is I had some good experiences within the realms of Native American healing and customs. Was taken under the wing with somebody who was from that culture, so it just felt very familiar to me even before my association with him. But the Hopi prophecy was about you know, healing that sense of the separation of races, because they talked about the rainbow children, not the trainees and the gays, but the true rainbow children are the reincarnation of the original indigenous people. For instance, when the settlers first came to America, and then the settlers become the indigenous, and vice versa, and so forth. You know, so we're always going around that kind of repurposing and recirculation of genetic experience. So the same thing in Australia, you have the Aboriginals who I believe out of all the indigenous, we're all indigenous, by the way.
Go back to that. Bear, we lost you for a second. Go back to Aboriginals.
Oh yeah, I believe Aboriginals are very special amongst the different types of indigenous people in the world, and then I quickly added, we're all indigenous. You know, so that's another separation. Oh, you guys aren't indigenous, so you don't belong here. Well, no, I was born on this continent here, so I'm indigenous to this continent. That's just the way it is, because you're always going to find some race of people that was here before the others, including the so-called Native Americans, including the Aborigines. But the Aboriginals are very special because they have, not all of them, they've fallen the way of a lot of the Native Americans now, but they still retain that thread of continuity of the dream time and the fact that this is not real. This is the dream. And they also were very much in connection with their roots. You know, they call it from different star systems, but, you know, I believe it's kind of an interdimensional affair. It doesn't even matter. But, you know, they maintain that, I think, better than any other indigenous group. And that's what we're all finding out. You know, what we were talking about earlier as far as airplane travel. Well, the fact is with just a little bit of understanding of waveform mechanics, a little bit of understanding of what the old alchemists understood, an understanding of how the etheric medium works, and our consciousness stimulating the entire progression all the way to precipitation of biology experience in every manifestation we sense around us. That is all us. And the waveform mechanics explains exactly how that moment by moment comes into our view. And if we heal that ultimate separation that's happened between ourselves and our higher electronic body, which some people call the I am presence, doesn't matter what you call it, then that allows us to consciously project ourselves, our being, and our experience. And at that point, there is absolutely no problem with projecting your body the next moment in a different location, no matter how far away. So, yeah, we don't need airplanes ultimately. And in the teachings that have been
Always breaks at a good spot.
I know. Let's see if he comes back here real quick. Come on, saddle balloons. They're losing their helium, I guess.
bell.
Bear, you froze there. Can you back to the teachings?
Oh boy. Yeah, sorry, I'm kind of skitzing out with Starlink here. So the teachings, tell us about how that is an absolute natural occurrence, what we're supposed to do, and it's abnormal that we forgot how to do it. So
Yeah, and also
yeah,
what I love too, Bear, about those teachings is that they don't poo-poo technology. There is technology because it's an emanation from that in the plane that can assist us to do that, whether that be sort of some crystalline technology, these analog technologies that, the future cities will have those where you walk through this sort of portal and then boom, you turn maybe a dial of sort of a harmonic dial that then points you to another portal through the grid lines or whatever, then boom, you're there. But yes, in the end, the idea is that we don't need any of that as well.
and they're all
Yeah.
ready to go. The only reason why they're being withheld is we have to become pure enough where we will not use those technologies in a weaponized fashion, which is what's happening with a lot of stuff that we do have right now.
And is it also the case where, because my understanding of it is that unless an individual is at a certain level of clarity or a certain resonance themselves, they actually would go suffer harm by teleportation or through going through different kinds of, portals and what have you. So there's that side of it. But kind of, aren't we doing it in a way now? There's zero delay in our conversation. Like the speed of light is slower than that based on your location on the earth plane and our location on the earth plane. Isn't this a form of that, showing us that it is here and now as well in the medium that we're doing it?
I personally believe that's the whole point of the technology that we're using right now, anyways, to have the light bulb come on that, hey, this is all inside of us and we don't need these little phones and gadgets and things to do it. And of course, it's a dual-edged sword. You can also foster a dependence on these things rather than using them to just clue us
Oh
in as
man.
far as our normal attributes. Anyway, did you lose me again?
Yeah, just for a second.
Okay.
It's all good. Keep going.
Okay. No, I think I completed. I'm just saying that, rather than foster dependence on all these little gadgets, what we're supposed to be doing is using them to understand that all technology already exists inside of us. And it would be impossible to have an iPhone, a computer, Wi-Fi, or anything unless it already existed in nature. There is nothing that can be brought in an external fashion unless it already exists.
Yeah, that was one of the elements of my talk this last weekend was about this where the substance comes from. And of course, even in the commercialized public system, they understand that and they use that to our own pure birthright substance that comes with every single person who has the opportunity to unfold or refold into this reality has the ability to draw that substance from the etheric plane and from the higher planes. And they understood that. That's where it all comes from. And so they're using that right now in the commercial sector through the power of literally the power of the pen, right? Your ability to sign as the creditor. And so when we can really embrace that in the private and in the natural way, like what Tom was brilliantly saying, how we all have gold inside us, we're transmuting reality continually through our own metabolism inside us. We are the true power source of everything. Then yeah, the sky's the limit on that. But understanding that where everything emanates from mind, from ourselves, is just the first step towards infinite beauty here. And I do think it'll be multi-generational for this to really kick in. But it's fun being sort of the pioneers now doing this stuff and getting people's minds to get out of the sort of mechanistic material of the idea that the phone is the end all, when the phone is just a reflection of us, of what, of the nature and our ability to command nature.
The Holy Trinity, Father,
Indeed.
Son, Holy Ghost, first, second, and third ray. And I am the power acting. I am the intelligence directing. I am the substance being acted upon. There's your Father, Son, Holy Ghost. Um, And, once we get what that means, then you don't need a freaking job to precipitate your needs. That's all the middle stuff that we were taught that we have to do for slow roll precipitation. The old alchemical studies are great, but they also, like I'm in my lab and I like to fool around in here and everything, but we don't need to do all this stuff. I use new technologies now. I do alchemical spagyric processes with pure acoustics, and less and less with chemistry. So, we're all supposed to kind of move the ball downfield, and that's where we're at now. And we are, like you were saying, Tom, that things are going very well for you and people that right now. That's because if you have made that connection, at least partially, and healed that conflict between the heart and the mind, and kind of create that beginning of a unity, then whatever we put our mind on at that point is just going to happen through the etheric medium exponentially quicker. And that's where we're at. And that is bringing us to the point, as you said, even with the support of these technologies, to bring us to the point of direct precipitation, bilocation, transmutation, all the things that are completely within our prerogative and actually our responsibility to use.
That's powerful.
Boom, mic drop. Wow, where to go from there? I mean, yeah, Tom had a phenomenal talk at the event. It's just Alec and I were commenting on how just a natural speaker and leader you are on stage there. And yeah, I would say that was sort of like one of the main themes of all the talks was exactly that, Bear. Like, and the truth is that in the end, we are here for a mission, and that mission most people don't understand, they haven't found. But when you do, then the emanations that come out of that naturally, effortlessly, have ripple effects across the etheric medium. And we could see that like at this event itself. And it was a pretty sizable event. I mean, mad props to Tom here, because I know he was probably the biggest promotional force of that. We did 6 Music in Skies to get to where, we had about 850, 900 people, if that, counting kids and stuff. And they had that out of the gates in the first one. Just shows how, I guess hungry the Australian people are too for this sort of thing. But
Yeah.
what was your overall sort of experience at the event? And were you happy with it? And what'd you take out of it? Take away
Yeah,
from
for
it?
sure. Well, the first thing is that this is part of the blessing of like the narratives that are offered, because Australia in general got squeezed real hard. It means that people are hungrier for something like that. So it works again. It just works in people's favor. It's like people are more motivated to come to something like that. You don't have to convince them so much, Whereas in other places, if it's, or for whatever reason, the environment, the situation in society doesn't beget the need to get together to commune like that, well, it's a harder, you kind of have to sell it, as opposed to like, hey, we're doing this. Do you want to come? It's like it's just way easier to get people. Also, having it in the right location helps, and having the right energy. So people often ask, like, they're like, well, how did you get good? So I'll just say, like, one of the best things about it was the people. And that's why I said during my talk, I'm like, not forget, like, it's still part of it. But the speakers, the musicians, and whatever, like, it's great, right? But did you really hear stuff you haven't heard me or you or anyone say on a Alpha Cast or a live stream or a post or something? Reality is not really, but there is something different in the transmission when you're there experiencing it live, right? So there's value there. But the main thing is the people. Like, I keep wanting to reiterate that if we're outsourcing, if I go to an event like a festival, then things will be better. Like, we need stuff, or and I'm like, but all you're doing is affirming that you have a lack of all of these things that you inherently have. Like, that was the basis of a lot of my talk.
Yep.
And the gold really is in the participants that come. So when you set the right, like, it's like, all right, guys, we're all tuning to this particular, key. So when you set that at the start and you set the tuning, you're obviously bringing a harmonic resonance that reflects that. So like, none of it's based in fear. It wasn't like, all right, guys, we're putting on a festival. It's about how to like kick the president of like whatever off of the moon and then set up these things where we dig ourselves underground and drink Kool-Aid. It's like, that's not the key we're all playing in. Like, we just start playing in a key, and then it just brings in the right voices, the right other instrumentation, like the right jam, you know, like that's that. So like a lot of people commented that they had, well, the speakers were good, music was good, blah, 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 whatever. But the best things they got was some of the conversations they had amongst the participants that were there, like the breadth and scope of experience and everything else that was there. Much like you talk about that at Music and Sky.
That's everything in Music and Sky. In fact, that's why we did open mic this last one every day, because so many people have so much to bring, and the reason why people come back
100%.
is for the community to hang out. All the talks and stuff are bonuses. Yeah, they're obviously great to have leaders in the space bring awesome ideas to the front on the stage, but in the end, like our goal, Tom, with Music and Sky, like, and maybe the next one's just gonna be Music and Sky, whatever we call it, 2025, be there. No lineup, nothing. Like, that's like, as a event producer, that's my dream, because then everyone just knows it's rad. I want to be there because of what you're saying. And there was the exact, Alec and I were tripping. We were like, dude, this is like where Music and Sky are confluence in Australia. It was the same resonance. It was that harmonic chord of just beauty, love, freedom, every confidence, right? Confidence that, hey, we got this. We're doing. It's very grounded. It's very practical in mentality, but also with a bit of exuberance and I dare I say, I don't like to say hope, but just knowledge. There's just a wisdom that is grounding across everyone, and also it's really big too that there's a foundation of health and wellness due to your work. And of course, there was a lot of like Way Forward and Alpha Vedic people there. So it's really important to have that foundation, where I've been to other events that are trying to do the same thing, but they lack that foundation. And so people, because they haven't been doing the work on the health tip, are lacking a bit of that awareness about who they are.
Yeah, for sure. And that's one of the, I think, to be around people who are, you know, more or less on the same path. And sometimes, well, a lot of the time, you're going to come across people who are a bit further along, and that's where you
Mhm.
get that. You're like, oh, you can feel into it more. You can feel the next sort of step, and that was the most powerful thing, was the ability to provide an environment where people could experience themselves together, like outside of the talks, outside of everything. It's just like, and that's the main thing. Like, obviously, there's a lot that could have been way better about it. There's a lot that could be a lot more substance there, where people actually tangibly go through processes to learn how to ground that and to turn
Yeah,
it, to really turn it over.
you guys will get there.
So yeah, so that it's not like, because at the end of the day, like, you got to boil it down like this. Like, I heard a lot of mixed sort of stuff, as you will with anyone's first go, but the most positive thing was the environment. There was no riffraff.
Yep.
There was no like Owen said this about the Bataria Festival last year. Even the portaloos were clean. You know what I mean? Like, you
Yep.
know, you're attracting the right people when you just have a clean environment,
Yep.
energetically clean, physically clean,
Yep.
everything's clean, right? And we had that. No riffraff, no problems, no nothing. It's awesome. And that's all credit to the people that come. They're attracted to the right resonance, and they want to do more of the same. So then the thing is that, like, a lot of people get excited about the fact that something's happened. You know what I mean? Like, we're here, this
Yeah,
is
yeah.
it, we're experiencing this, but beyond that, like, I'm always looking for, like, how can we go deeper? How can we like experience and give more value? And beyond just being like, we're here, we're doing it, and people feel great, so they're like, "Woo, this is awesome!" And it's like, yeah, but beyond that, like, what else happens? Like, then, like, I always ask the questions in my talk, like, and then what? Like, people never ask that question. So it's like, if you don't do that, I feel what happens is you create a lot of energy and then it dies down. Whereas my philosophy is like, is if you're asking the and then what, and you've got a couple of levels behind that as to what happens next, or what you do with that, what you bring, what you become, how you ground that, how you actually change and alchemize environments around you, then it's starting to get next level. So then you have to have things like, you gotta up the quality of the food that's there, for starters. You gotta have like a different way of doing things. And that's like the beauty of, you know, like coming out the gates, like with a good, um, with a good participation rate. It's like, all right, cool. Like, let's look at what went well, and then you got to build on that sort of stuff over time. And that's like, that's it. I just got to be real about things, and where I can fit in better, and how I can, you know, come back better myself as well. Because to be honest, like, dude, when I came off the stage, I was like, shit, I think I bombed. Hey, like, I was looking for somebody to just go like, give me the expression, like, like, hey, that was really good. And I was like, I don't even remember half of what I spoke about.
That means you probably did pretty good then, because you're in the flow, right? I always feel like I bomb after I talk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a common thing.
But I will say, and Bear, an amazing first event they did. As Tom said, the most important thing was the people, and they were all just so on point. The production was really good. Yeah, there were some things, that can always be fixed. I think one thing that we have always do at Music and Sky is have a lot of integrated workshops, body stuff, like grounding stuff, somatics and stuff. That's just easy to add, get into that, less sort of like talk. But the music was amazing. The artists that you guys brought were phenomenal. Actually, I want to bring Sean out to the States. He really wants to come out to Texas. Bear, you love this guy. He plays guitar and drums and harp and everything all together. And he's got like a soulful, total Americana sort of act. Bit of country, bit of soul, very rock, like in terms of like grassroots kind of rock, roots rock, I guess you call it. But yeah, he killed it. Tess, she was awesome. So yeah, Bear, you would have been right at home at this place. It was really magical land too. It was like it was out in the bush, as they say. I haven't seen a live kangaroo yet, though. I've
what?
seen dead ones. I guess one jumped in front of us on the night back and I missed it. So I still got to see that. I haven't been able to see
There's
a
some in
Rubia.
the park just down the road, aren't they?
Yeah, right. I know they're like deer here. But yeah, it was a really phenomenal job. I can't say enough about it. We were treated like royalty too. We were just so impressed. I got to kick it with Cal, by the way, a bunch there, Cal Washington, who's just a stellar dude. And his son was was cracking us up the whole time. So I was rooming with Cal and his son. It was really great. So I can't say enough about this inaugural event. It was a smashing success. And so what we're trying to do now is the vision that I've been holding since really we started Music in Sky is having a unity event where we bring everybody together. So all the crews, so Confluence, Music in Sky, the Alfa Vedic community, Tom Barnett's community, Living Free Movement, Aussies,
Burning
like,
Man.
yeah. What was that?
Burning Man.
Yeah, all of Burning Man, of course, and Coachella. But no, even like Anarchapulco, Greater Reset, bring everybody together. I maybe in Texas and do a big unity event, and the goal is 25,000 people, a couple stages, and all the Bears, of course, Bear Taria, Owen's crew, and really us all. Yeah, we all have different little differences and stuff, but we talk about like a harmonic event, right? Of setting that tone on the planet. Let's choose the best spot. Texas kind of seems like a good spot right now, but maybe California, I don't know, maybe Australia, whatever, and really bring everybody together and show like, hey, this is a real deal movement. This is happening. So people are really getting excited about that. And yeah, I feel like we found our sister event, and we'll work on that airship and get Bear out here, because a lot of people want to see you, Bear. A lot of people want to meet you, man.
I think my cameo at Music and Sky should hold people for a long time.
Mike told me all about it. Sounded good.
No,
Dude, I reckon.
I applaud you guys for doing what you're doing. I'm really happy you're doing it. Different phases of life, we do different things. And right now I'm kind of holding down the farm and doing other things, but I would be very dismayed if there wasn't another generation doing exactly what you guys are doing. We had our own versions of it, and the show must go on. And as far as 25,000 people, shoot, we pack a stadium with four times that amount for a single football game. I always thought, because I used to play in big stadiums, I'd run out there and you see all these screaming people. And I always thought, what if all these people were gathered for world peace or some such thing? How powerful would that be? Instead, they're all, worked up about throwing a ball around. So yeah, it's time. Absolutely.
Well, I reckon 50,000 is a more realistic number. When you said 25, I'm like, I guess you got to be realistic, but for some reason, 50 seems more real to me. But the thing that I think is missing, the reason it's the first thing is like, you got to remove the blockages for people to come to something. Like, why do yeah, 100,000 people turn up at a ball game or something like that, right? Like, why? And you got to look at things like the marketing, the branding, the pricing. Like, you got to take care of all that because that's the dominant narrative in a lot of people's minds. But there is a unification of what's happening. And the funny thing about a lot of these events is that there is almost like a red versus blue or something like that going on. It's like, how can we
Polarity.
yeah, how can we incorporate a polarity there? But to the same point, it's like, all right, so let's say everybody, not a lot of people want to sing like, I can't think of a really gay song, but just something like people that don't want to sing, right? But everybody wants to like sing along to say, I don't know, like Hotel California or something, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So you kind of like got to pick the key or you got to pick the tune. And then it's like, well, everybody has the different parts. Like you say, we all have our some slight differences, but if we're picking the right song to all sing together, so to speak, it's like you can have some polarity in there, like a tuba isn't a friggin' guitar, and that's not a drum kit, and that's like Batari is this, and Alfa Vedic's this, and there's some crossovers, there's some differences, and what we do is different again, but there's some similarities. So you just got to figure out the polarities. But then this song that we're all playing together, and like, why is it serious? Like a lot of people don't want to come to something that's like too serious or whatever. Like, where's the celebration part? Which is where I think like what you guys do is awesome because it is about like celebrating. And why is something like Burning Man so popular? Why is Coachella so popular? Like, there's elements to these things where you can
Drugs.
incorporate it. You can, yeah,
Escapism.
but you can
Yeah.
have that without you can have that without what, like, it's just this whole mirror image thing that I talk about often, which is there's the substance and there's the fiction. And in my experience, it's not a huge bridge to cross to get somebody from the fictional escapism of what they're trying to, what they think that they're after, and the real thing of virtue and value that they can have just as easily, if not more easily. And I honestly, I really feel we're close. And when you said the unity thing, I'm like, holy like this is
Yeah.
this is it. Like
Yeah.
this could really make a huge impact. And it's not about having to reinvent the wheel either. It's
Yeah.
really not.
Yeah, I think there's an evolution happening right now of consciousness of people that are thinking that Burning Man and sort of these consciousness festivals or even going to Coachella was a, there's a lot of elements of freedom of expression, the creative arts, letting go, uh, engaging in, creative flow of the masses with music and art. And we embrace that grounded in sort of the truth of and sovereignty of what it actually is real and out of the imaginary fiction. It's way more palpable. It's way more of a ride, a high you get when you're really engaging in a full festival environment, but it's based on that, and it's not the escapism and drugs, and it's going to catch on. People are going to start. I mean, that's what how Music in Sky has had. Our success is the word of mouth, and that's just going to be catch on as like that's the new scene, and we're seeing it in like Tulum and even Byron here. There's like a massive health and wellness. Like a lot of people aren't drinking alcohol anymore. A lot of people are going to do yoga instead and like going to ecstatic dance and doing this stuff. And yes, there's a lot of escapism there. There's a lot of weird trauma shadow projection of the. We were joking, Bear, that like the number one job here in Byron is well, the number one thing to do is take a class on how to coach so you can learn how to coach others that then know how to coach others. And so it's like a pyramid scheme, right? Of spiritual bypass coach work. But that's a hell of a lot better than doing cocaine and going and going to the nightclub all night, So we're
Absolutely.
baby
And
steps.
here in the States, they call it a life coach.
Mm.
And most of your life coaches are in their 20s. And I get tickled. I have some great friends who I love dearly that are, in that age bracket and they're life coaches. But, they came in pretty dialed and everything. So,
I had a quote in my first ebook that I wrote. I said a life coach, the definition of a life coach is somebody that couldn't figure out what to do with their own life, so they decided to make a living telling you what to do with yours.
that's also the definition of a college professor. Yeah, how many
Yeah.
professors are out there, actually making businesses run and doing things in the real world? No, it's a total artificial construct and a safe place. But hey, cool place to hang out and get tenure. I don't blame them a bit. Nice cushy life.
They're academic gurus. basically. We were talking about the guru. We're talking about, oh yeah, and also pretty cushy because they're, you know, if you're a predator, you've got a lot of very open, you know, seriously, like in college, just like, I mean, imagine that's just like shooting fish in a fishbowl. I mean, yeah, it's funny. I asked Cal's son, we were talking about college and stuff, and he said, I don't plan on going to college. And
Well, how
my
old is
kids are,
he?
he's 9. He's
Oh,
kind
he's
of
young.
reminds me a bit of a mix between Miles and Mateo, my 2 kids, and very, very bright, but and very, very wise too. And my youngest son's the same way. He's just like, I have no intention of going to college, and I see that as a really good thing, right? It's we're moving into now a space of these children. You're seeing them like all these kids running around this festival, Music and Sky. They seem to be so much more wide open in terms of just bright lights. We've talked about this on past shows, and it really gives me a lot of faith in what we're doing here because we're obviously handing the baton to them. And imagine the world, Tom, that they're going to be in when they're our age. I mean, obviously, that's important, right? The image that we set
Mm.
forth to project in reality, but what exciting times for them. And I think they know it. And that's why they're so darn cool.
I was just about to actually ask both of you what you think about this. So, for example, escapism's there, yeah. So, like,
Hmm.
that's a big thing about. I actually had this discussion with Summer last night. We'll probably do a podcast on it ourselves, but she was saying how, you know, like when people they go to nightclubs to take drugs and do all this stuff, and they're like, or they go to like Coachella or, you know, Burning Man, and it's this pure escapism. And a lot of it devolves down to like the lowest vibration of things. And a lot of it's got to do with overt sexuality, drug taking, alcohol, and, you know, the sort of things that you would expect happening in like a dungeon somewhere, right? So it's like a lower vibration of being. And she said it was interesting that like she used to she'd be the first one on a dance floor at like a venue. Like there's nothing wrong with dance. Like everything's got its like way that you can do it that represents something else. And she said, I'm just not feeling super cold to do it anymore. I'm like, that's because it's the same level of escapism that what you're doing is you're growing out of that level of escapism. Just because you're not doing cocaine and wearing a BDSM outfit, wanting to be the first on the floor to like, she goes, I feel so free. And I'm like, yeah, but that freedom and escapism are like, you got to be real careful about what you're actually doing because what a lot of people think is being free, it's escapism. And then to not be able to find the subtlety in what's actually going on means that like, whoa, there goes your energy. Like, what's going on? Like, what's happening with that? So then I'm like, all right, well, a lot of adults seem to want escapism, but where's the healthy version of that? Like, what does it look like in kids? And it's like, it's in the imagination. It's like they're not bound by a reality or a construct until it's indoctrinated and beaten into them. So I'm like, what if there's these festivals where it's more based around like there's no drugs, there's no alcohol, like no one's taking their clothes off and running around naked like at some of the festivals. And it's like it's almost like bringing people back to their inner child to reconnect to that part that is based pure in the magi, like the imagination. And it's like how would that go? Like would that bring people in that it's more like a ball game? Are there elements of that the where's the positive element that you can
I'll
bring?
tell you what, man, Owen would love where you're going with this partner in Music and Sky. That's his role with our group, and that's why we have like live painting in the art gallery, and we do creative stuff when we want to get more into activations around imagination because that's totally where it's at, and I couldn't agree more. Yeah.
What do you reckon, Bear? Like when you say like well, you see all these hundreds of thousands of people sometimes coming out of stadiums. Like what do you see in that can be like what are people seeking there that could easily be turned over in something like a unity festival? Like there's got to be elements of that are good. Like that's why people come, but it's inverted in the meantime. Like can't be too hard.
But they're looking for a tribe, first off. They have a team. They belong to the team. They know all the stats on every single player, everything about the player's personal life. You know, anything that brings them closer into living vicariously through them and feeling like they belong. Because most of these folks, and I don't even say this critically, are leading lives of quiet desperation. They're not enjoying what they do to make a so-called living and you know they're mostly just getting by and so they need a break in the and the monotony, and then also to feel recognized for something. So you identify with a team. Now, what if the team that you're identifying is spirit, and the fact that you are all powerful spiritual beings in equity, and that you are coming together to create a new system of worlds and transform everything that's ever gone before and will ever come after us. That's really something I think we could project. We just have to, kind of displace that focus of the mundane, into something a little bit more lofty. And I believe that's what you guys are doing. And more
Wow.
people are naturally gravitating to that because, frankly, the old show is getting boring. Even the folks that were really getting off on games and movies and and whatever kind of debauchery you can think about. After a while, it's old news. You just don't get off on it the same anymore. So that's where, you finally run the course and you run smack dab into who you really are. You start attracting to yourself other people that are on the same path. Pretty soon, you're in groups of people that are all talking about spirit and not, the latest draft choice by the 49ers or something. And it's a transmutation process, and it's just a natural thing. I think we're at a point where we don't want to ride the fence any longer, and we want to just, maybe accelerate where we're already going, because there's a larger game in town that is going to move on with or without us. I'd like to be on board for it myself.
Wow, Bear, I love that idea that the team is spirit. And we literally talk about, like team spirit, right? That smells like team spirit. Um, but the idea that is so great, because I think that is the key in Music and Sky. When we had Owen on, I talked about how there was a few times I cried, and it wasn't because I was crying because I'm a little pussy. I was crying out of joy because of people's stories who were telling me that due to the efforts of myself and our partners and Alfa Vedic and what we brought through that event, they had a transmutation. They had a transformation in their life where they went from having that job mentality of the 9 to 5 and being directed in their life to being self-directed, to having an entrepreneurial pursuit, whatever it was, and finding themselves. And now they will never miss another Music in Sky, because it is their family, but it's because they want to share their gifts with others, to be of service in the community, and to be sort of in that polarity, Tom, of the give and also receive. So in Music and Sky, we talk about it's important to give, but it's also very important to know how to receive. And that's the polarity, my brother.
This is awesome.
Oh
Well, give and
man, Barre
receive is
Lando.
give
How's the
and receive
weather?
is
How's the weather in the States right now?
it's
I'm coming
it's
home soon.
amazing. Beautiful fall days, and kind of bittersweet that the summer is waning. On the other hand, fall is just a great time for just gorgeous blue skies, mild temperatures, and it's really a contemplative time. We go down to the river, and the river has a whole different energy. Just float out there in a inner tube and space out. Look at everything, and fall is really, really a magical time. And it's also the time where you can kind of take a breath. You've been on the out breath all spring and summer, and now it's just time to start taking it all in, and just marvel at things. And then winter's kind of a trip. We have more of a winter here than you do, I think, Tom, but there's some magic that happens in the winter too. You really go inward into the bear cave, and you can get great insights and creative impulses, and just also contemplate what you're going to be creating on the next cycle.
Yeah, there's something to having proper 4 seasons, Tom, which you don't you
Yeah.
don't really have here.
No.
So
No.
we have the white of winter where we will get snow, and all the leaves are gone, except for we have a lot of conifer evergreen. So, but you have that. So you have the cold, you have the inner sort of the need to sort of go inside. And then of course with spring, you have the unfolding. Summer, we have the heat, and then fall. My favorite time of the year actually, Bear, is because the surf's back. The river is the fish are coming in, so
Oh,
steelhead and
wintertime.
salmon.
Yeah.
You have more time to yourself because you're not trying to get the harvest done, right?
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
And it's still epic weather. It's still light till 8:30, 8 o'clock for next month. We get the Indian summer. If you do, guys want to come visit us, the fall is a fantastic time. And I think maybe our buddy that we were on recently is going to be coming up to shoot a little thing. We're figuring that out, but
Oh
we were
yeah,
just
you got the same email as me. I just said, yeah, glad to have you. And Marcy is coming up next week to also do some filming up here.
great.
So we've got film crews one after another. Marcy, for people that don't know, Marcelina, she did Andy Kaufman's Terrain movie. She's award-winning documentary maker. She's a sweetheart. We love her. In fact, Mike, when she's up here in another week, she's coming up the 7th. Let's
Okay.
do a little in-house chat with her and do it like you guys are doing right now.
Sounds groovy. And I think a lot of people know this about Tom, but maybe not to the extent that I was aware of. Like, I knew he loved photography and film, but he's actually quite talented. And I'm very excited to have him, come over to the States and meet Bryden and Steph. And, they have a film out right now that they self-produced and directed called Aloha Also Means Goodbye, which is getting really critically acclaimed reviews and stuff for something they did themselves for like $10,000 on a
Yeah.
shoestring budget. And to be able to collaborate, in media, we've been talking about this while we've been here, how that form of art really has a powerful, it can be a powerful tool for going to the next stage, right, of expression and
Yeah.
versus something like podcasting. But
Oh, 100%. Yeah, because I was just thinking in terms of like my next question, other than a ball game, was like, how come a U2 concert or one of those big festivals will get, a couple of 100,000 people at those massive, massive music festivals? And then I was thinking about it. I'm like, well, the quality of music and musicianship is good for sure, but why do people follow this stuff over time? And a lot of it is obviously because they're put there. Like we know the control structure within the record industry, for example, but they're not necessarily better musicians than someone like Sean, for example,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Probably not even as good. So then it's like, all right, so how we have the ability to do that ourselves as well. And I was saying to Mike, like, we're having the discussion. I didn't know Mike had been to film school. I'd been there. Paul is into film and that as well. And we're like, well, there's a reason why it's the ultimate, because live streaming, posting on social media, podcasting, it's got its place and it's amazing. It reaches a certain number of people, but it's very direct. It's very this for that. It's like, I put in this, there's this as a result. However, when you go into the medium of music and then into a medium of art, like visual art, but then you combine it, film's the combination of visual art, music, storytelling, hero's journey, blah, 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 like, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it's kind of like a combination of it all. And that's how you can start. You don't have to say stuff. In film, you probably learned it. Show it, don't say it.
Visual medium. Yep.
So it's like, show it, don't say it. Like, then bring in the music, like bring in something, the sound that helps to direct. And obviously they use it in a subversive fashion, but you don't have to. It's just it's a medium. How do you use the medium? So then by introducing concepts that don't have to be like, all right, dudes, there's no such thing as a virus. And people are like, what?
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to flip people out. It's like, you can show that and bring it in a way that it's like, it's just permeating their being. They are being indoctrinated and programmed. However, it's to help them return to what they already probably knew at some point. So then through that as well, you're introducing lots of different factors that when we put on like a unity festival where it's to celebrate spirit, it's like we were both just
and
going,
re-premiere the film there too.
exactly. But hey, look, it could take a few years. It could take a few things, a few shorts, a few movies, a few whatever, like a docu-series. But over that time of creating a media company that does that, that actually brings that to people, well, then automatically that's like the U2 concert. It just sells out. Or the bowl game, like the Super Bowl, it just sells out. Why? Because people are already there. It's if they can be programmed that way, they can be programmed this way. Like everybody wants to feel closer to themselves rather than further away. They don't know that necessarily, but that's a natural law. That's like a fact of life. So then, like, if you can bring that, I just see like if we had a 10-year plan to start little things, like obviously keeping these festivals going, getting the underground movement happening, but then at the same time, like introducing these mediums of media in a way that helps people to connect to this thing that they can't put their finger on, and boom, there's your 100,000
It's
festival.
yeah, like I think it was Andrew Breitbart said culture is downstream from politics and all that stuff, and whatever. But there's truth to that. Like really, it's I think people go to YouTube because it's embedded in the culture of where they grew up, right? It's what they know. And so developing that culture of what we're doing, right, which is so much more palpable, right? So much more believable because it's real. It is a revolution in that way. You saw it Bear in the 60s a bit, huh? Was that legit? That was pretty legit for a bit.
I don't know. I
Yeah.
don't remember. No, 60s, there was something happening, of course, in hindsight. Now, some of us realize a lot of it was fabricated, but there was real change that was going on, absolutely. And even when the MK Ultra folks, put out their little psyops, it's kind of a hit and miss thing because they're also planting seeds that work against them in the long run. So, uh, yeah, but the 60s, of course, was short-lived because it was built on sand. There wasn't any true foundation.
Yeah.
That's why when the 70s came in with faker music and money is the new drug and cocaine and everything, the
Cocaine and
same
disco,
folks that
baby.
were peace, love, dove just embraced that wholeheartedly. And they're my boomer generation now that's wow, a wasteland out there.
I, I I would say that is a brilliant breakdown, Bear, built on sand, because philosophically they were coming from more of a new age place that wasn't grounded in natural law,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I understand. I was actually interested, like, because I totally agree. Like, anytime there's these MK Ultra agendas and whatever, they do plant seeds that will work against them. Can you give an example of that, maybe from the 60s, 70s, and even the 80s, with like the way that MTV started to get into play in that? Like, can you give an example of a seed that worked against them or may still work against them that hasn't come
Well,
to fruition
part of
yet?
the 60s, of course, was returning to the land. And it's what some people term the archaic revival. We're all wearing buckskins and raccoon hats and, just whatever
Yes.
hippie uniform. I
Easy
was wearing
Rider,
a,
We
baby.
got to bring that back.
I know,
yeah,
right?
I was wearing a football uniform, so I didn't quite get into all that. But, I enjoyed the 60s like everybody else. And even though the majority of those people that were all looking to live on a commune somewhere in Northern California out in the country are now, in little townhouses and embracing the whole yuppie philosophy, it still gave birth, I believe, to what's happening now and what Mike and I talk a lot about on Alpha Cast, which is permaculture farming and of course, emanated from Australia actually. So, that's one example. It's kind of this sort of hippie movement, but then it's still alive and well as far as that part that people are seeking to regrow roots in the land. And the music, it was kind of free flowing and a lot of creative stuff. And then it was replaced with formula music and everything. But now that's just created a void, just like our podcasting and the type of media that you guys are foreseeing for the future. Yeah, there's a real void that was created with all this artificiality. And that's why we're out here even talking, in the public in the first place, because there's a real need for it. And we've, from day one in our company with my son, Mike, and myself, we've talked about getting media out that would be life altering. And if Hollywood can fund, hundreds of millions of dollars for just a worthless movie with violence and no point to anything, uh, we can certainly do better. And the fact is everybody I talk to um, is not even turning on Netflix anymore, or they're just burnt out because there's nothing worthwhile watching.
You
We
mean
don't
you don't
even
want to
look
watch
anymore.
the sixth iteration of Spider-Man's trilogy or Batman?
Yeah.
Yeah, like I look back at some of my favorite films before I was really kind of evolving more into my spirituality. It was like gangster films, war films. It was just decrepit stories about decrepit people that are immoral and screwing each other over. But why did I like them? Because they were beautifully shot, beautifully told stories. Like The Godfather to me still is just an amazing family story. And I actually watched it with my son. He wanted to watch it so badly, and I finally let him. I had to fast forward a couple scenes. But imagine like implementing that sort of art form into something about, like whether that be something about how viruses don't exist, or like a story of Walter Russell. Like I'd love to do a true biopic of Walter Russell. Matt Presti and I have talked about that.
Yeah.
Like what an amazing, inspiring film that would be. I was thinking, you're talking about how pilots were revered. I was, Catch Me If You Can, Spielberg film with Leo DiCaprio showed that. But it was about a guy, and it was kind of cool because he was bucking the system and how he was counterfeiting checks and stuff. But imagine if you did that about like Royal Rife, right? Like you could inspire people with truth and love and freedom, but in a way, and using the medium in a way that isn't having sort of this immoral character to it, which has been the soul of Hollywood since the beginning.
And I think one component that we can't forget about is just start having fun. There used to be actually fun and funny movies, and
Yeah.
laughter is a great medicine. And there used to be movies that were absolutely hilarious and entertaining, whereas, now it's just disrespecting others is kind of supposedly being taken for a type of humor. And, it's just, yeah, there's no,
Three Amigos, baby. Or, what's the surfer movie you got me hip to, that one of Bryden's favorite movies, the Friday, what's that one called? It's the surfers in the 60s or in the
Big
70s.
Wednesday.
Big Wednesday. What a have you seen that
Yeah.
film?
Yeah.
What a classic, man. Yeah, just going back to even that, like just it's
And
easy. You can
Endless
totally do it.
Summer, just documentary, but funny and yeah, just great. And you're cruising around the world, going surfing with these guys. They're cracking typical surfer jokes, and it's great. So we need more of that. We need to laugh and enjoy ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why I keep bringing celebration back into things as well, because I think people get too serious and they just
Yeah.
anytime somebody says to me, "Do you want to watch a movie?" I'm kind of like, "Yeah." I'm like, the first thing I go to if they say what kind, I'm just like comedy. Like every single time, it's my first choice. Even if I got to rewatch something that's I've watched 10,
Yeah.
20 times, I'm just like comedy, man. Unless it's something that's really shot well, then I'm like, then I can feel more. I can feel the beauty of it and
Yeah.
and whatever. But it's comedies, man. Like even what you were just saying before, whatever you were saying before about like another like iteration of just gore, and what came to mind was Tropic Thunder.
Oh
How
yeah.
they have all the sequences at the start, and there's Scorcher 1, Scorcher 2, Scorcher
So
3, 4,
good.
5, and there's Scorcher 6. Now we're gonna do it again. This time it's like whatever, and it's like they're literally mocking their own, like mocking the people that are going to watch all of this, crud that they're turning out for like the 11th time, and it's just oh man, but that movie was genius. I just crack up with that one, for example.
They're
Movies,
far and few between these days.
movies can be very informative. I think one movie everybody should look at right now, if you haven't already seen it, if you want to know what's about to happen in the financial world, watch The Big Short.
Mm.
Uh, Fantastic movie. And when you watch that, you'll learn a lot if you don't understand all those kinds of toxic derivatives that brought us to the brink in 2008. And the fact that it not only didn't stop, but it was carried on steroids. And that's about to implode right now. And, that's not a bummer, but the whole thing's coming down, and The Big Short will tell you exactly how and why,
Sports
and
movies
very
are
entertaining.
sports movies can be great too, like classics like Rudy and stuff or The Natural. But like I watched on the plane here, I was like, I'm gonna watch some movies. I'm not feeling great. I just want to zone out. So I watched The Boys and Boats, I think it is. It's about it was actually very well done and
Oh,
very
it's great.
classy
I saw
too.
that.
Yeah, and like
Yeah.
a simple film like Chariots of Fire, right? That's another classic, and it has a great score, just why I like those is and why I watch them with my boys is because it's about like the human spirit championing over darkness. Like we just watched the Lord of the Rings trilogy again. Thank God they made. I said this in the previous Alpha Cast, but thank God they made that when they did, because if they made it now, it'd be like Frodo would be like like a black midget, and it'd be like it'd be like Gandalf would be trans. So, but yeah, I mean, there's still a lot of wonderful art out there to watch, but I'm really excited, man, Tom, to hang in the States a bit and play around in that and mess
Yeah,
around and
I'm
potentially win it.
excited about your trip. So we can hang, we can show you all the local sites and everything. And there's things in this area that are, I believe, unique in all the world. And there's wilderness that is completely untapped. And we were just having a little gathering here at the farm the other day. We were all talking about it because everybody was from here, and a couple of them that were delivering wood to us at the same time are Native Americans, Yurok. And everybody has their stories about Bigfoot and all these creatures that we didn't even know existed until we lived up here.
Yeah.
We see stuff that's amazing. And anyway, we can take you to some very special places.
Yeah, very keen for that. I think it'll be winter time though. Yeah, like February into March. You're just coming out of winter.
It'd be full on
Well,
winter, but that's all right.
so winter where we are too, especially where the farm is hella lush. So because we live in a rainforest from basically October through March, April. So you have waterfalls and rushing springs everywhere. It's just a constant sound of water. And it's not like it's just a winter wonderland, right? It's just lush and super, super, super green because we are close enough to the ocean where we're not getting those bitter colds. I think last year, actually, I think at our house, Bear, we only had like 3 hard frosts, if that.
Yeah, it
So,
wasn't as cold last year, which was good. We had more fruit too because of it. Going up
yeah,
the remote river canyon where we live here, it's totally away from any power grid or cell towers by miles. But when you enter this canyon and you climb up to where the farm is, you'll count in the wintertime, you'll count 30, 40 waterfalls just, cascading down
yeah,
off the cliffs. And
amazing.
then the water in the river, even though it's raging, uh, because there's so much rain coming down, it still is crystal clear all the time. It never gets muddy because it's coming right
Actually,
down.
when they're coming might be right around the Whitewater Festival that we do that I
Oh,
DJ at
okay.
every year.
Yeah.
So rafters come from all over the world to
Mhm.
this because Smith River is just like legendary during the winter because it's spring fed, and so it's winter fed. It's not dammed. It's not really snow melt fed. So it's when the best water is. So we could take you rafting. Also, there's some epic like the redwoods are so amazing. That's when I go run the redwoods because all the tourists are gone, and it's just super lush and amazing. And there's the redwood trails are phenomenal, and there's also an amazing 160-year-old trail behind the farm. I'm not going to say the trail because I don't want people going to it, but I can take you and Summer on it, and we may see Bigfoot. We will see all sorts of crazy. We'll see ring-tailed cats and potentially a Humboldt martin, or maybe a fisher. Animals that people don't even know exist that are in our backwoods. But it's this phenomenal trail that follows along the Smith River, and it was like the old mining trail from 1850s. And you are back there, man. It's like a thing back in time, and it's only like 20-minute drive from the farm, and
Yeah.
it's just phenomenal in the winter. I love our winters, dude,
On
and
the
I'll
way
take you
home
fishing if
from
you want.
town last week,
Yeah.
we had a mountain lion dart in front of our car, which you usually don't see those in the middle of the day.
Oh
And
wow.
just boom, huge one, just darted across, in front of our truck. So it's kind of cool. So we went home and looked up native medicine, what lion medicine is.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, I had an owl hit my car leaving your place once, which was I
Yeah.
knew was something really important and magical. Leaving your place at night once, I saw a cat just kind of my headlights hit it, and I've seen multiple. Obviously, you have bear, we have bear, bobcat, all sorts of traditional what you think of.
A lot
When you
of
think of
ringtail cats. They look like lemurs.
yeah.
Mm.
I'm looking to go see a roo and even potentially a koala while I'm here. I think I'm going out to the LFM property a little bit later today, and they say there's kangaroo everywhere there, so it's a bit inland. Hey, this has been a fantastic chat, you guys, as I knew it would. Any final things, Tom, to close it out for our community and for Bear here?
No, well, first of all, I mean, so good to meet you. Like it's one of those things like you want these things to happen, right? Like you develop these relationships online. It's part of modern technology. It's a great thing. But then when you get together, like, better stuff comes from that.
Yeah.
It was really, really great to mix some of the LFM and the Alfa Vedic community. I know that there's a lot of crossover anyway, but there were a lot of people, obviously, like you're blown away, right? The amount of people came up to you, like,
Yes,
we're from the
exactly.
Alfa Vedic community.
It was
And
kind of exhausting after a while. It's like every turn.
But you might expect it at a Music and Sky event, but you've flown like 24 hours away, and then you're experiencing it in another land. And the guys are coming up like, "Hey, we
Yeah.
followed you for ages." And
We're
whatever.
huge in Oz. I think I was telling Tom it's the California swagger. It's kind of like there's that same sort of
Similar, yeah.
similar sensibility, but you're right, Tom. It was just really cool to sort of go back in time or go forward in time. Sorry. So I go forward in time here, supposedly, and be in this totally a foreign world and feel so at home. So props to you guys for doing all the work here and laying the foundation. I think a lot of people would know we are without you. And
Well, same.
yeah.
Coming on to you guys. Yeah, that's the thing. It's like this collaborative thing. So I love the idea of this Unity festival as well. And then, yeah, I'd love to meet some more crew when I come to the States with summer. So between now and then, I'm actually putting together a natural law course that people can do because, like, a lot of people talk about it. They're huge interest to people. They're not really sure how it connects. And it's like, I've never really been able to provide something that starts from like here, like what is it at its essence? And then what is it really like? How do you progress with that? Not focusing on things like how do you discharge a debt? How do you like tell a parking fine to go away? It's like, yeah, you can do that when you understand the principles, but it's like this is about more than that. It's leading towards more of what, you would, bear. Like that's why when I come over, I want to interview you as well, if I can, just to like go through more in depth about some of these teachings that you're familiar with and that you implement without really like talking directly about it. You can tell it's coming through. And that sort of stuff I think is where I think people are going to get more excited, and it's just bringing them back into themselves. So I'll have created that by the time I come to the States, and
Awesome.
be stoked to come and see a few people there as well.
Beautiful, man.
Looking
That's
forward to
fantastic.
it, Tom. And you guys have a good time together there with how many hours you have left. And Mike, safe travels home.
Yeah, we'll do. We're gonna try to maybe get some surf tomorrow morning. And we were trying before the show and it was super blown out today, but yesterday was gorgeous, man. But the water here is just amazing. The people are phenomenal. The land is special, and I'm coming back. I'm bringing the family. It definitely is going to become a thing. Yeah, Tom. Hey, thanks so much, brother.
Thank you.
It's great hanging. And Bear, I'll see you before we know it.
And as a show of solidarity, Tom, I have my Australian Shepherd here.
Awesome.
Nice, dude.
Love it. Yeah, he loves you.
Yeah, she's my
Yeah.
daughter.
Well, we'll have to take Tom surfing in California when he comes, definitely. So,
Thanks,
Yeah.
Bears. Good to see you.
Good to see you,
okay,
Tom.
man. Enjoy
Take
the
care,
rest
guys.
of your
Good
afternoon.
chatting.
Okay.
Laters.
And everybody in Alfa Vedic, thanks for the chat, coming to the chat and enjoying this talk. Remember to get outside, get your feet in the dirt, go plant something, go show Mother Nature some love, go for a hike, go for a surf. It's really the best way to get grounded back into the reality. And we'll be seeing you next Thursday at the same normal time. So Thursday, 10 a.m. Love you guys.